So when the gaming summer is dry like this, I like to go back and review some Wii U games, because that's what I've been playing. So whenever I'm not playing Rainbow Six Siege, I'm powering through a Wii U game and then going back to Rainbow Six Siege. And before you ask, no, I still have not beaten Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm one of the frauds who still hasn't finished the game, so don't spoil nothing for me, Kay? But Pikmin 3, I really wanted to review Pikmin 3, because I got it for cheap. I've actually had this game in my library for a long time, and I don't know why I didn't play it sooner, because Pikmin 2 was one of my favorite games. It was one of the first games I played as a kid on the GameCube. And that's really why I like the Wii U as a console so much, because every good, awesome game on GameCube either got an HD remake or a sequel, or a combination of the two. So there was a lot of nostalgia in just the menu screen and watching it boot up and make the same sound effects. And when the little rocket ship's going up and the night ends and it's like wee, 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 wee. And it's like telling you all the Pikmin you lost and everything. I love that. That's just hardcore nostalgia bomb for me. Pikmin 3 runs in 720p in 30 frames per second on the Wii U. And knowing the hardware of the Wii U, this actually isn't that bad, considering the amount of Pikmin you have on screen that have to move in sync and that have to have their own little animations and their own flowers and fight other enemies while water and physics and fire effects are going on in the background. It's actually kind of understandable. Very rarely do I have frame drops. When all 100 are coming out of the onion and you try to move the screen, sometimes they'll get some dips. But otherwise, it's actually a very well optimized game. Again, considering the outdated ass, shitty old hardware of the Wii U. And I'd really like to see a Pikmin 4 on Nintendo Switch running in 1080p 60. So if we can make that happen, that'd be great. Don't worry, I won't hold my breath. I'm not a dumbass. And to be honest, I'm not really sure what it is. You'd think having a bunch of little guys, like an army, a bunch of small things, you'd think the 720p resolution would hurt a lot more than it would in, say, Breath of the Wild. Because in Breath of the Wild, with all the grass and all the shadows, you ended up with a lot of shady, jaggy, pixely stuff. In Pikmin 3, you don't really have that. Pikmin 3, everything's rounded, and they kind of move together in one big clump. And it's very satisfying to the eye. If you have, like, only two colors of Pikmin out at the time. If you have, like, blue Pikmin and then pink Pikmin flying above. It reminds me of StarCraft. Like, you got a bunch of Mutalisks hanging in the air behind you and how they move. It's a very visually sleek game, and just the art style of Pikmin in general, going for that kind of very zoomed-in, magnifying glass, like outside ground, like your backyard. And like most Nintendo games, Pikmin 3 is very colorful, it is very beautiful, it's very innocent, it's very fun, and it just puts a smile on your face. It's just so damn cute. You got the little cross-eyed Bulbor bugs walking around, wobbling around. You got little beetle and ant-like creatures going around, and they have funny faces, and the little Pikmin with their giant eyes and they stare at you. This is so cute. If you've never played Pikmin, what it is it's baby's first strategy game, really, essentially, is what it is. You have a primary objective. In Pikmin 1, it was fixing your rocket and getting home. In Pikmin 2, it was collecting treasures and paying off a debt back home. And in Pikmin 3, it's like Interstellar. They're running out of food, they can't grow okra anymore. So they came to this planet, so they're gonna collect all the fruit, and you gotta get home to feed the populace. Unlike Pikmin 2, this is more objective and story-based, like you accomplish goals to succeed and see the end credits rather than get a certain amount of fruit. Because I think at Pikmin 2, when you hit like 100,000 money or whatever, the game ended and you went back home, right? Something like that. But in Pikmin 3, really the fruit is just like an upkeep. It's just something you need to get through the day to then finish the story. So the fruit really isn't the primary objective. And it being Pikmin, it being a Nintendo game rated E, kind of aimed at children. I don't mean that derogatorily like I do when I talk about movies. It's a kid-friendly game, but it's not like a kid-only game. Like, if you're looking for the intensity, the strategy, the tactics, the mechanical depth of something like StarCraft, that's just not what Pikmin is. You're just not going to find that here. But there is enough to do with overcoming obstacles and puzzles and killing creatures and finding fruit and exploring the world and doing stuff. It is a pretty casual game on the whole, I would say. It is generally a very relaxed game. Once you have 100 Pikmin, you just throw them at everything and it just dies. So there isn't a lot of difficulty unless you get to the bosses. Some of the bosses are kind of bullshit, but it's about using the right Pikmin for the right job, and you have 3 captains and they use that as a mechanic too, where you can throw the other captains across ledges and then throw them Pikmin. So splitting off into groups to multitask isn't technically necessary, but if you do it, you can get a lot more done in a day. And I never really felt like I was at a shortage of Pikmin, like I had to plan and plot out resources carefully. I just had a giant clump follow me around and I just chucked them at an enemy and made him do. There's actually a charge command, so you don't have to throw them all individually. If you lock onto somebody, you can hold B, and then they'll go brrr, there'll be a little like trumpet, and then they'll just, it's a very efficient way of draining a health bar quickly. You can do that for walls too. Something that Nintendo has seemingly been struggling with a lot lately is their control schemes, because I've been playing a lot of PS4, and when you're a kid and your GameCube is the only thing you got, you get used to it and it's easy and you just have to deal with it because you're a kid, you don't know any better. But when you play more advanced, more mature games that require more precise button prompts and better button placements on a controller, you do miss that, and you take it for granted when you go back and play a Nintendo game. Because every Nintendo game I review, I always have a problem with the control scheme. So when you first start it up, when you first boot it up, it's like, use the gamepad to swipe to throw Pikmin, and I'm like, you can f right off with that. So I turned that off, and it goes back to like classic mode. But classic mode is not the same as it was for Pikmin 2. So in Pikmin 2, the C stick, the second stick, was for moving Pikmin around, and you could use it to guide them, to get them in a straight line, and to dodge kind of obstacles on the ground. So they replaced that kind of with a dodge feature, which is very appreciated. So if you hit left and right on the D-pad, you can roll all your Pikmin. Dark Souls. The influence of Dark Souls is unending. The second analog stick is now the camera, so just rotating, moving around left and right. But my biggest issue with that is that the left stick is moving and the left stick is aiming the cursor. So if the cursor is really near to you, you cannot move until the cursor gets to a certain distance away from your captain, and then your captain will start following the cursor. It makes moving around precisely and accurately very difficult. Don't get me wrong, it's not The Witcher 3 or anything, but like having two actions on one stick just feels very unnecessary, and I question why they did it, when it could have easily been a twin stick shooter. Have moving be on the left stick and have aiming the cursor be on the right stick. Then you can be moving and throwing Pikmin at the same time, and it's much more active and fluid. Whereas in Pikmin 3, you just kind of sit there and then aim and then throw people and just have a bunch of Pikmin waiting there in line in a clump, and then you move them eventually. I did not like this control scheme. They changed it from Pikmin 2, and it's the only win you get. It's either this or the damn gamepad. Nintendo is so arrogant and overconfident in their control schemes that they never let you pick any. You get one. Nintendo's option menus are always really shitty. Also in Pikmin 2, there was a camera zoom feature. You could zoom like between 3 levels of how close you want it to be to the Pikmin. That's completely gone. And it's not like they ran out of buttons on the controller. There's like 3 buttons that have no purpose whatsoever. They do nothing. And one of them is a repeat of throwing Pikmin. So there's 2 face buttons that throw Pikmin. So that's a pretty big flaw and a pretty big oversight on Nintendo's part. It really didn't get me killed all that often because, like I said, the difficulty is not in not having enough Pikmin and trying to conserve resources, because you always have a ton of Pikmin. You just throw them at whatever it is. I'd say the only caveat of that is that you're losing Pikmin and they're dying and they're crying for help and it's so sad. And it's not like you're gonna run out of Pikmin. You have like 500 left in your onion at home and you can replace them at will. But that means they're dead and they're dying and their little souls go up to heaven. It's so sad. And the last 10 seconds of each day are like the most tense, stressful thing ever, because like you have 9 Pikmin that aren't in your squad, and if you don't find them, they're gonna get eaten alive by the monsters at the end of the day. So you're just scrambling using the gamepad on the map, trying to figure out where they are and get back to them in time. And if you lose a lot of Pikmin at the end of the day, you generally don't feel it in your wallet, you don't feel it in your Pikmin count, but you feel it in your heart. This is such a good game for children. It teaches them to value life, to see them as people and not as a resource. Because look at their eyes, they're so cute. Man, I gotta remind myself that I'm still 21. Yes. Oh, that's better. I also really like the little captain characters. You have Alf. It's just the look in their eyes. It's just like, you're adorable. Then you have Captain Charlie, who's the Italian guy with the little mustache. And then you have Brittany, because if you spell it like that, it's not Brittany. Brittany is spelled B-R-I-T-T-N-E-Y, not B-R-T-T-A-N-Y. That's Brittany. So I kept calling her Brittany, and she kept messing up. She kept eating all the juices like, Brittany, get your fat ass down here. Brittany is just the worst. Everything bad that happens in this game, you can just safely blame on Brittany. Brittany! The other big letdown of the game is that there's only 2 new Pikmin. There's the Rock Pikmin and the Flying Pikmin. The Flying Pikmin are a good addition, and I like the Flying Pikmin. Whereas the Rock Pikmin are very, very clearly a swap for the purple Pikmin. They're big, heavy, fat Pikmin that do damage. They're a little different because they're sharp edges and they're rocks, so they crack crystal stuff is what they do. But other than that, that's it. You lost the poison Pikmin and the fat purple Pikmin from Pikmin 2, and you just got these two new ones. And I like the flying Pikmin, but they're a swap. They're not an addition. So at the end of the day, you still only have 5 different kind of Pikmin, and I don't like that. I wanted more. What about like a frost Pikmin who can move in deep snow, or like is immune to like a cold blizzard that comes and freezes everybody else over for a few seconds? What about like a drill Pikmin that can quickly rebury itself, and you can have like a stealth section where you're avoiding stuff instead of attacking it? What about like clay Pikmin that can clump together and build stuff and form bridges, or fill in holes in structures or something? What about crystal Pikmin that are like the opposite of the rock Pikmin? They form shields, and you have to like have them positioned in front of the other Pikmin to like absorb a blast. That's 4 ideas that I just spitballed right now off the top of my head, and I think they're all better than what Nintendo gave us. And really the variety in Pikmin only matter when overcoming obstacles or when a type of enemy is just like the fire enemy, so you throw red Pikmin at them so they don't get burned. There's a couple parts where you have to use the flying Pikmin because they're the only ones that can reach it and get up there, but other than that, you just use the rock Pikmin. You explore with a variety of Pikmin with like 20 of each of them so that whatever you come across, you have the right Pikmin, so you're prepared. And then when you come across a boss, you go home, come back the next day with 100 rock Pikmin as your assault gank squad. They just kill everything. The other big problem with this game is that it's so damn short. I powered through it in like 10 hours, and that was with a lot of f***ing around, going around trying to find every single last fruit that the game had. I ran out of content so quickly. There's only 5 real bosses and 4 real areas, because the final area is really just one big boss fight, and I didn't really like the structure of that. That really annoyed me. I mean, the boss himself was kind of cool. He's this giant morphing golden blob of evil. But there's only 5 bosses total. Pikmin 2 had like 20. The first boss is pretty standard. It's a bug with like crystal over it, so you have to crack it with the rock Pikmin, and I really like the animation on that, seeing like the cracks until you finally shatter a piece and then you can throw a regular Pikmin at him. I wanted more like that. Just give me more bugs. Too many of these Pikmin were not bugs. They were other weird things. I just like seeing giant creepy looking or cute looking bugs. I think that's what Pikmin's about. Just give me like 10 more of those. You don't even have to get that creative. Just change the color and change the shape. And the final area was such a shame because it's like this cool deserty look, and that would have been such a nice change up, like a desert with like cactuses and snakes and scorpions everywhere. It would have been a very stylistically different new looking area, and it's just a boss fight. And overall, I would say those are Pikmin 3's biggest weaknesses. The controls are kinda and there's just a very big lack of new creative ideas. It's a very beautiful game, especially considering the power of the Wii U. It's a very fun game, it's a very colorful game, and it's a very cute game. And that's nostalgic, and that's just me, I know. So really, it's probably more like a 6 out of 10, but I'm gonna give it a 7 just because I was so happy to go back to Pikmin. I think the Ruskies are attacking us. Did you hear that? Oh, by the way, happy 4th of July. But the general gist of a review, the question I'm answering is Pikmin 3 a good game? And I would say, yes, it's a good game. It's an underutilized game, it's a flawed game, and it's a game with some wasted potential, but it's a good game. And if I can confidently say that, I can confidently give the game a 7 out of 10.